Warning. This podcast is about to open the sealed section of spirituality. Hey you, yeah you, we see you, you divine human being.
And we are calling you to come home.
We are ready to talk about the real shit. We're going to get real about life as a divine human being.
The good, the not so great, spirituality and taboo. Divinely Human is the podcast that's all about what it means to be human in a spiritual context.
We know it's not just about being spiritual, it's about being human too.
And that means changing poopy nappies and channeling angels.
Sometimes even at the same time. It's time for us to stop making other people's noise our own soundtrack of life.
Let's make some waves together so that we can all ride them together and create deep resonance, a sense of home in this crazy world.
Pour yourself a coffee
Or a glass of wine if that's your potion.
and sit down with your new favorite spiritual sisters
As we go on a journey together into what it means to be
a divine human being.
on this spiritual journey. Hello and welcome to the Divinely Human podcast. I am your co-host, Aleisha.
And I am Tanita.
We are so looking forward to sitting down and having a really great chat today. As always, you guys know how it works. We will be pulling a topic out of this little cauldron that has been put in by our community. So this is all topics chosen by people in our community. Also, for whoever we choose, we will be doing a quick card pull at the end just to say thank you. So let's do it.
Yay.
Just get straight in there this morning.
Yeah, why not?
All right. So, oh wow, this is a long one. Oh my God. Okay, wow. Whew. Okay, so this is really going to, this topic is going to be a little bit uncomfortable, I think, even for you and I to speak about. It was put in by a community member, so as always, we'll be pulling a card at the end for this, just to say thank you. I'm going to try and phrase it as well as I can to be respectful. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do with your wording. So the topic that we will be discussing today is why some people feel that, that push and that pressure to, I want to say this correctly, but it kind of has to do with image. So how the community member put it was why some people feel they have to pose in lingerie or nude, in the spiritual community and share that to sort of prove their connection to the divine feminine energy, and share it with people. Also, she would like us to touch on ego, gratification, and validation as well. So I think this is a really great topic. It's taboo, like it's as taboo as it gets really in the spiritual community. But I'm looking forward to diving into this.
Yeah, same. This topic actually really excites me, especially because there are so many different perspectives we can look at through this. And I know that, I will do my best to try and give it from multiple different perspectives. But yeah, I'm excited about this topic too. And I think that I grew up around people who had the opinion, and then I took on the opinion also that it's trashy to flaunt your body, to show your parts on social media, to put that at the forefront of your social and public image. And I grew up really afraid of sharing my sexuality as well. Like even just saying it, that I have so much underlying trauma around it. So there's a lot of fear that comes with this topic. And I want to share my perspective and how it's changed, because I think it's important to understand it's always about you, the receiver, as well as the person who is presenting the image, presenting, you know, their sexuality as well. It's about how you receive it. And we can never control what other people do. We can only control how it lands within us and what we do after that. And the past couple of years, I've definitely made such a conscious effort to love my body more, appreciate my body more, step into my own sexuality more and more. And the more I do that, the more I have so much respect for these women who actually put themselves out there on social media and use their bodies as a tool of communication. So yeah, it's just interesting because I know it's really uncomfortable, but how do you feel about it?
I feel really similar in terms of opinion and experience, because
Yeah.
I too I've kind of grown up, which is really funny because, like, the way that I grew up, I didn't grow up in a very conservative, family. Like, my mom's a flaming hippie. Like, like, I grew up with people like my mum walking around nude all the time and embracing her body and, you know, not giving a fuck. And also, where I grew up, it was like a small community where, everyone was literally a hippie. Like, I'd go over to my best friend's house and, like, her mum would be walking around naked making us breakfast. Like, it sounds so strange if you don't grow up like that, but, like, there was nothing sexual attached to it. And I think that that's the defining factor here. And I loved what you said about, like, using your body to communicate, because we have this beautiful physical vessel, I believe, for a reason. And it is a tool to communication and expression. And I think that that's important. Where I think that people are kind of getting, either, if you're on the receiver end of that, like, either triggered or, like, offended or upset, or if you're on this, like, the sender end of that, maybe a little bit too much in your, like, need for validation or gratification, is when you're kind of doing it for a reaction or like for someone else. I feel like it should never be for anyone else but yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree there. I totally agree. And it's honestly tough talking about this subject because I can really see into both perspectives, and it's hard talking from a place of, well, you know, there are women out there and men who do use their sexuality to like, we could even go into, sexual selling and, like, using our bodies to sell things and all of this sort of stuff. There's so many different avenues that we can take with this, but I think it's really important to understand that if you are getting triggered by content on social media, it is a deep invitation to look within and your own story and your own belief system, and to really evaluate your values. Because when I was having all of those experiences of seeing women put things on social media where they were putting really sexy images up there and using lingerie to talk about themselves, and you could see that desire for attention and validation because they were putting it out there so often, it really did trigger me when I was younger. But the reason it triggered me was because I hadn't accepted that part of myself. And I was insanely jealous of somebody who was able to so easily, perceivably, like, put something out there and then feel okay with it. And that's just my own, like, how I perceive that whole thing going. So for me, this is an invitation for you to look at, well, why does this rock the boat for you so much, you know?
Yeah. And I admit, like, as I too used to get triggered by it. I find today when I see it, I can pick up if someone's, like, the intention behind it, and I can feel into that intuitively and energetically, where it's coming from, where it's rooted, but only because I'm, connected and tuned in and can feel that coming through. So, like, yes, there is, a portion of the community that I do see doing it for the validation and the gratification. And maybe that's why some people are still feeling a bit triggered, because they're feeling into that too.
Yeah.
But as you said, I totally agree with, doing it in a way that's empowering and kind of like it in a way that has really nothing to do with the body. And I know that sounds weird, but it really is just a vessel of communication and expression. And I can see the polarity of it happening in this community as well. But it is a deeper invitation to unpack.
Yeah.
And it's not one of those things where you just spend half an hour unpacking it and it's solved. You continue to be exposed to things and get triggered and work through it. And then you might think that you've worked through it. And then, one day you see something and it triggers you again. So it's this never ending unfolding of understanding of why people do the things that they do and why people choose certain ways to express themselves. I think, disassociating yourself from their why and just moving into that all-encompassing, that's their path. Okay, they're obviously experiencing this and that, they want to express themselves in that way for a reason. And all you can do at the end of the day is just send love and, that everyone's doing the best and on their journey. But I do empathize with people that do feel uncomfortable in that situation where they do feel it. And validation itself, aside from posting, sexy pictures, validation and gratification, I believe is a pretty big issue in the spiritual community. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, I'm glad you brought this up because I was going to touch on it too. It's massive, and you don't just have to look at what people are posting as the image to realize that people really are seeking approval and they're seeking validation. We see it all the time, especially when coaches take their clients' results as their own. We see it when people are not sharing others' content. We see it when they're asking for reviews and testimonials straight after everything. They don't even give you a chance to let the healing or let the session or let the program integrate. So there are so many of these red flags that pop up. And if you are somebody on the receivership end of that, where you can really sense that the person is seeking validation, they need your approval, they need to know that they're doing something, I would invite you to just take a breath and really feel into whether or not you want to play into that even more. And the only reason I say this is because as a receiver, you can be an enabler as well. And it's important to understand your own role in this whole relationship. And if you do have a really keen sense of what's going on and you are able to kind of read between the lines, like I know Aleisha is great at being able to just understand people's values right behind their content and their offering and their marketing. And if you're somebody like that, then I believe, and I'm on the opinion of that you kind of have a responsibility to do something with that information, whether that's you actually doing something with the person or just in your own life, and you take that as a sign to not go down that road as well.
Mm. Yeah, I think that it definitely holds a lesson and an invitation to take action. Exactly what you said. Yeah, and just touching on the validation thing again, I really do feel like none of that really comes from this place of like malice or ill intention. It's honestly just people feeling like they need to climb this ladder, and it comes back to what we've spoken about previously on this podcast before, is people just wanting to compete constantly. And I really truly believe that that's where the validation comes from, and the need, and that desperate want for gratification in this space, because we believe that it's every woman for herself out here. We're clambering up this ladder of growth, and we think that we have to knock every other woman out of the way on our way up. And And by doing that, we need more validation than other people and more gratification, and we need more people posting about our things and our offerings, and more people sharing what we share. And it's this really ugly cycle that I see happening a lot.
Yeah.
And that in itself is an invitation to break that cycle. We need to take these steps, I believe, towards breaking this and reframing what it is to work in a spiritual community. Because like we aren't all here on our own. I like to think of us as, we're surrounded by colleagues. Like we're all colleagues, we're all here, we're all sisters, we're all doing this. And I really do think that it's rooted in that, just that, belief that you're on your own in this space.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that image of all being colleagues, because we are, like, ultimately we're all working for, bettering humanity, bettering the world, bettering all of our souls. And I love that, because whether you acknowledge it or not, you're enrolled in the same big mission. Like, you are enrolled by the universe. So I love that a lot. And I have to look up this person on Instagram, because as we're talking, I just found her the other day. One of my clients shared posts about her, and I saved some of her things. And she talks about, toxic spirituality, and all of this stuff. And it's really interesting, because
Ooh,
what she
if
was,
I follow her.
I think you do. Her name's Ash Rising.
Oh, I don't know if I do.
Oh, maybe you don't. I don't know, but she's really interesting. And what she was saying in there is, we need to really understand the systems that we work in, both in the coaching industry, both in the business world, both in the spirituality, like all of these different communities that we operate in, because then we get to understand what patterns we need to break. And she talks about this ideology behind, like, white business supremacy, which is the, like, I'm one business and I'm going to work really hard to get to the top, and then all of the wealth is just shared among the big companies. And that's being filtered down into the industries that we're in, the coaching and the spirituality industry, because we're seeing it firsthand. It's competition over collaboration. It's every woman for themselves. It's not collaborating with other people in this space. And we have to break that. And you're right, it's so uncomfortable to understand that we could be playing a part in, feeding other people's validation, feeding other people's unworthiness, and also feeding white supremacy and, like, all of this stuff at the same time. It's a lot. But the truth is, you have to know what's going on in order to break the cycle. And it is uncomfortable at first, but once you recognize what's going on, then you get that powerful choice to be like, actually, I don't want to run my business like that anymore. And we see it in so many different ways, like people feeding programs to the same client over and over and over, and telling them they can't do anything unless they take their program. Or, like, what were we talking about the other day? It's like, if you can't afford my program, you, like, what was that?
Oh my goodness. Like if you can't afford my program, then like something in you is misaligned. So take my program, because then that will fix it.
You're like, bro, that's not okay. Like, we need to look at the reality of what people are living through at the moment. Some people are, like, single parents. There's not something misaligned within them. They're in a really shitty circumstance. They've got kids to look after.
Fucking lettuce is $8 at the moment, people.
What? There's nothing misaligned within me. Like, I'm working over here.
Since when were avocados cheaper than lettuce?
I know.
The world we live in. And it's so true. And I know that we're on a little bit of a tangent now, but I really do need to, wow, I'm punching my microphone. I really do need to reiterate that. Just if you're someone out there who is saying that by someone taking your program, you're going to enable them to be able to pay for the program, you need to stop. And I don't care how this comes across, that you need to stop. Find a different way because it's really unethical and it is manipulation.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I
And
said it.
yeah, I'm glad you said it because it's true. It so is. And it's hard because we've been taught, and there are so many teachers out there who teach about the human psychology and selling psychology, and sex does sell. Like, if we want to come back to the conversation around, flaunting our sexuality, sex does sell, but also so does money. Like, you have to understand that, yes, a part of the human brain wants to go towards the big things. It wants to go towards, I don't know, the kind of the outliers almost. It just does. So we also have to understand that if you want to break that, you have to be enrolled in it.
Yeah, you really do. You can't, it's kind of really hard to work from the outside, isn't it?
Yeah, it
You
is.
kind of have to be in it. And, that does involve being in really uncomfortable situations sometimes and being very, very triggered sometimes as well.
Yeah.
Um, I'd really love to touch on the divine feminine energy part of that topic that was put in as well. And, you know, having to prove your connection to it. I think that in itself is a really interesting topic, in that, a lot of people think that the only way to connect with the divine feminine is to, like, rock your hips in a circle and, like, do embodiment
Like
work. But I
crystal and dildo, like.
yes, I really do think that we have so many tools to connect to it. So I think it would be really interesting to talk about that a little bit too, because a lot of us feel like we have to subscribe to certain things to be able to connect with certain things. Um, I mean, one time I went on a hike and I found a waterfall and I just, like, got in the waterfall, and I've never felt so connected to the divine feminine, because I always see water as feminine.
Yeah.
And, just being in nature and in this body of water, in the waterfall, which produces all of those beautiful, is it positive ions or negative? I don't know. But like, I've never felt so connected to the divine feminine, and I wasn't even naked or rocking my hips or using a crystal dildo.
Yeah. Crazy, isn't it?
Wow.
I love that. I have had fantasies about jumping into waterfalls. I love that so much. Not sexual fantasies either. Just like, because, like, you're right. Like, some people are drawn to different physical expressions of the world that represent, feminine or masculine energy. So I get also this feeling of needing to prove your connection, especially in the spiritual space. Like, if you are a coach or a healer or a reader in the spiritual community, there is this feeling that you need to prove how connected you are, right? Like, you need to be able to
Yeah.
channel, you need to be able to read
Yeah.
cards.
I was going to say, even psychically, I see so many people, so many psychics that are just constantly trying to prove they're psychic. And I'm like, girl, you don't need, like, we believe you. Like, if you're connected, you're connected. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And again, this comes back to, like, your own internal frequency. If you truly know that you are connected, you don't need to prove it. But
yeah,
of
no
course,
validation required.
yeah, exactly. But of course, I do feel this push, and I've felt it from the minute I stepped into this community. So it is interesting. There's a lot of factors at play here. But yeah, I agree. There's so many other ways to connect to your sacred femininity than, yeah, than what we see happening. It's
Yeah, I see it often. And I do really agree in some parts with this topic too, in that there are a lot of people trying to prove their connection with the divine feminine. I'm like, the divine feminine is, it's part of you. It's part of like this, intricate energy system that flows through your veins at all times. It flows through your channel and flows through your energetic field. You kind of don't really have a choice whether you're connected to it or not, because that's what we sign up to when we come down as a human being and live this experience. And with that, it's also the same with the divine masculine as well. Like we all have it, but it's just different percentages, different amounts of what we're willing to tap into. And I believe, I actually believe that we have, like, it is balanced. I really do believe it's like 50-50 in everyone, like no matter what gender you are. But I think that the thing is that we just haven't really unlocked all parts of that. So we feel like we're not balanced, or we feel like we have more maybe masculine and feminine, or no feminine, or no masculine energy, because we just haven't learned about ourselves. And I really do feel like we don't ever stop learning about ourselves. We might think that we come to this beautiful understanding at some point in our life where it all just drops down and we're like, wow. But I honestly think that that doesn't happen until we're just about to pass over.
Yeah, so we might be waiting a while.
Yes.
But yeah, I totally agree. And I think that we come into each life with different wounds to heal within both the divine masculine and feminine side of us. And I think that sometimes one is turned up higher than the other because you need to heal that different part. So yeah, it is really interesting. But also, I think that certain people are here in different chapters of their mission to really embody that and express it fully and awaken others to their divine feminine, if we're just talking about that. So I do believe, same as with, Akashic channels, some people are here and they're really enrolled in this chapter to fully embody themselves as that channel. And it might come across as trying to prove something, but at the same time, they're really just here to awaken others. And I don't know, there's just this feeling of like, if you don't like it, it's so easy to just unfollow that person and ignore their content, because I do really appreciate people who are fully embodied in their mission,
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important. And it's what we kind of need to do to be able to stay on our own path. It reminds me of the what is it? Wait, what is it? I pulled it yesterday. Was it it's a certain card in tarot that I pulled, and it really explained it beautifully, in that we can get quite just caught up in what other people are doing, and being justice. Yeah. So it's the justice card. And then, like, that, how I read that card is that, just accepting and surrendering into the flow of life, and just being okay with whatever anyone else is choosing to do, not letting that distract you. Because as soon as we're distracted with whatever someone else is doing, that literally like knocks us out of the driver's seat of our own life. Like, we no longer are in the driver's seat. We're being propelled by the energy of this other person that we're allowing into our field to drive us. So I really love that card, because for me, it's empowering. It's like, hey, do you, you're on a mission. Do you have a purpose? Do you let everyone else do what they want to do? As long as they're not inflicting pain, hurt, or malice onto the people around you or yourself. But you really need to just at times take a step back and just focus on what you're doing. And as we were saying the other week, like, there's nothing better than doing a big cleanse of your space and clearing out the people that don't really feel aligned with your mission, because we all take on parts of whoever we choose to fill our field with. And people don't need to be standing in the same room as you to take up part of your energetic field. They can be someone that you follow on like Instagram or, TikTok, or, it's so easy. Energy is energy, and it surpasses, distance, space, time. So you might think that it's something that's not affecting you, but as soon as you remove it, you feel everything shift and everything feel like it's swinging back in momentum, and you're moving forward and you've got clarity and direction again. And it's because you've cleared out the energy that you were consuming. And we're natural consumers as humans. That's it. The natural thing to do is just consume. Yeah. And I do think it's a lifelong lesson to sort of teach ourselves to restrict that a little bit and find the balance of just not always being that consumer all of the time.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's true, we have to really work with our own body and energy systems as well. We have to get to know it really well in order to know how to function at our best. And it takes learning, it takes it like experimenting with ourselves and with our own energy. And the more that you surround yourself and spend time on social media, the more you're going to need to cleanse and cull and do energy clearings, because that's a lot of energy that we're picking up on. Yeah, it's really important. And something was coming through before, as you were saying, but it's just completely gone. Oh yeah, so like even when I was starting out my business, I spent so much of my energy and my time and my money like investing in different programs and in different books and listening to different podcasts about business and doing all of this stuff. And then it got to a point where I was like, information overload, you're in like almost analysis paralysis, and that can happen in any situation. And so I just want to remind everybody that it's okay to take a break. Like, it's okay to stop doing readings, it's okay to stop receiving readings and healings and doing all this stuff, and just give your human body some time to recalibrate and re-energize itself, because your body is actually really, really smart and it knows what's best for it. But if we're constantly bombarding it with all of this energy, all of this information, all of this judgment, that it's too much for our body to handle, and you will notice yourself like in a period of stagnation. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that to our awareness, because when we are in this mode of judgment of what everybody else is doing and really enrolling ourselves in, what are they doing next? What's happening? What's going on? Like, why are they doing this? It's a lot for our body to handle and process too, Sometimes we just need to put the blinders on and really say, I'm going to be so selfish, because ultimately it's for the better of everybody else. I'm no good to anybody if I'm constantly enrolling my energy into everybody else.
And that also goes for, I was having this conversation yesterday, that also goes for things that are happening on a global scale as well. And I know that it sounds awful that, we sometimes have to tune out of big world events and news and some really awful things that are happening on a global scale. But sometimes you just have to be your best person, or so that you can be your best person for other people. I know that I've really had to tune out of this Roe versus Wade thing. As like painstakingly hard as that is and was, like, I just did not have the capacity to get involved in that moment. And obviously some people will probably hear this and feel triggered by it, but that's the only reason why I have the energy to now today turn up and do this podcast episode. If I had have allowed it into my field 100%, I wouldn't even be able to take on clients or work or, create income for my family. So I think that it is important to really not be swayed by what the world is telling you to do or say. I think that there's a lot of hype around a lot of things. I'm not talking about that either anymore, but just other stuff happening on a global scale that we feel like we have to subscribe to and like add to the hype and allow that into our energy field. And I know that within the spiritual community, there's like trends of what everyone's hyping depending on, what's happening. And you don't need to subscribe to any of that if you don't have the capacity to. And by not having the capacity to allow something into your field, that doesn't mean that you don't care. That doesn't mean that you're not connected. That doesn't mean that you're any less spiritual or a good person. That just means that you have a responsibility and you're fulfilling that to yourself and to your family and everyone around you that you still need to show up every day for. And I really want to reiterate this because I've had multiple conversations the past week to many people that have surrounded just this feeling of guilt that they haven't voiced their opinion enough, or they haven't, supported various people enough or done enough. And I'm like, you have done plenty. As long as you're looking after yourself and your family, then that's going to overflow into the world around you,
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And it is hard for some people to hear that. I do understand. But like you said, it doesn't mean that you don't care about what's going on and that you're not making a conscious effort to better humanity in your own way. It just means that you're not going to let this take you down, because then let's talk about like the fact that when these things do happen, ultimately the worst possible outcome is that people let it affect their energy and they stop doing important work. Like that's the worst thing that can come out of all of this. And it doesn't mean that we don't stay educated and informed. It means that we continue working on our mission because that's what God has chosen for us. And it means that we are working and doing what we came here to do. And we are trusting that it's doing good for not just us, but for everybody around us. And if we stay connected to the bigger mission and the bigger reason for all of this, then things like this won't have that much effect on our energy system, if that makes sense. And it is really tough because when things like this happen and they hit really close to home, of course we want to feel so much empathy and we want to voice our opinions. But if that isn't lighting you up and that isn't actually giving you more energy to spread awareness, to spread opinion, to spread information, then you haven't been assigned to do that. Like that's just really important to know as well. And I want to make it clear that it's okay for those who are enrolled in this and they want to share information and educate people. We need more people like you. But if you are somebody who is taking this on and it's not supporting you, it's okay to let that go. And it's okay to pass that on to those who are ready and willing to do the work.
Yeah. And if you don't have the capacity to enroll yourself in that, then maybe your purpose in that particular space and time is to support someone holistically who is holding space for that particular thing. I think that we're all continuously playing different roles. We don't just take on one role and stick with it. Like sometimes we're activists and sometimes we're just purely here to support people, like people, like war nurses almost, like to support people that are out, sharing their voice in such a strong, beautiful way. But we do play different roles and we just go with the cycle. I think it's all just cyclical and it will change. It always does.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also important to understand if you are pushing to do something that doesn't feel good for you and your energy system, you're also letting that come into the topic as well. And you're also investing that particular energy frequency into what's going on. So it's important to understand what you're investing into, either the problem that's going on in the world or the topic that's happening. And if you can't, then you need to look after yourself. It's important, especially for those of us who have families. Like, I remember it's so easy to like let ourselves get down in the dumps and take on this role. But if we're looking after humans and you've got this business of supporting other people, it's so important you take care of yourself, because you're doing incredible work and it needs to continue.
Yeah, I agree. Everything that we are feeling and, emotionally is going to spill out to those around us too. I always see it with the kids. Like if I'm stressed or I'm upset or I'm just absolutely exhausted, then I notice their behavior change as well. And, it makes being a mom harder, it makes everything harder and just worse for me. So being mindful of my energy and what I'm immersing myself in and my environment, making sure that my environment is a safe space, a supportive space, something that's quite nurturing when I can allow it, is one of the best things that I've gifted myself since becoming a mom, because it's tough. It's really tough. And a lot of people, think that we're out here and we can just do it all and take on all the energy. And I'm like, I can't do it. And it doesn't mean any, like, you don't care. Like I have people send me messages into my inbox and that are quite heavy sometimes, or just way too much information. And I'm like, hey, I'm a mom. I can't do this. I've had a rough day. I'm tired, and it's okay to put up boundaries. You don't always have to be a space holder if you don't have the capacity for it. I think it's really important. And I really loved what you touched on about like what you're bringing into the energy that you're showing up with too. I think that's also really important. And I think that that can circle back too with the original topic a lot, in the way of like, why are you showing up? Like, what are you bringing? What value are you bringing in doing this to the people around you and the wider community? And asking yourself that question as well, like, why? What's my why? What is my why behind this? A lot of people just like share shit constantly, and I can tell that they haven't asked themselves that question.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's none of that was involved in this, I know.
My favorite was like when I was starting out and I didn't really have that big picture. I wasn't fully tuned into my why. And I would just share like journal prompts to like people. And I was, like it's just such a like surface level thing, like
Yeah.
an easy content piece. And like
Yeah.
looking back, I'm like, oh girl, like sometimes it really is quality over quantity, and
Yeah.
you can so tell. And if you are somebody who is seeing that in their feed a lot, like cull them. This is full permission to mute them, to get rid of them, to clean your energy field, because it's important. Like you have such a responsibility too in this. And I'm quite over people who are like, oh, I hate what she's posting, but like continue to
Follow.
and like engage in it. Like, well, okay, it's not, something's not quite lining up 100%.
Yeah, like, why are you liking it then?
Doesn't make sense.
Unfollow. Don't give more energy to it.
Yeah.
I know that can be portrayed as really bitchy, but energy is energy. What you feed to energy grows. So if you don't like something, then don't cheerlead it. Like,
Yeah.
that's sounds fucking harsh, but that's how it works, the whole energy thing.
Yeah, literally. And also, this is a reminder that you're not for everybody as well, and your mission isn't for everybody as well. So it's okay to post about whatever and realize or have the awareness that not as many people are engaging anymore, or you know you're not for everybody, you can't please everybody, and it's okay to rock the boat with others sometimes.
Yeah. There's a I think there's a healthy space for being the protagonist sometimes, if it's not in like a malicious way in this space. Sometimes we need that energy just to get people's minds ticking.
Yeah, I agree. Totally. Totally, totally. And I think it's interesting this person put this topic in because, you know, for me, I would say you've got a really big awareness of what's going on. And this is an invitation to the person who submitted this topic to be like, well, now what? Like, yeah, you can give this topic to both Aleisha and I to talk about, but how are you going to talk about it too? And this isn't just for the person, it's for everybody else who understands what's going on in the industry. The reason why Aleisha and I created this space was because we did see something going on that we didn't like 100%.
Yeah.
And, you know, we are investing ourselves into disrupting it a little bit. And this is an invitation for you guys who also are aware to disrupt as well. We are not the only two people standing here, like leading this mission. There is need and there is space for many more of you.
And it's the only way to bring light to these things happening. And I have to take my hat off to the person that put this in, because I can tell like this did come from someone who is very aware and can see through the surface of this community into what it is. And I so feel that, because I know that you and I are both very similar. So I love that there is just that resonance there between us. It's like, yep, I get you.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yes.
Mm.
Let me pick up my cards. I'm like sitting in a different spot.
Yes, on that note, let's pull a card for this beautiful person who has popped this topic in to say thank you. Oh, my deck almost just fell.
Yeah, which deck are you using?
The same as last week.
Ooh, all right. Well, I'm using the Prairie Majesty Oracle.
Ooh.
It's cute. Okay.
I'll let you pull first.
All right. Oh,
Jumping card. Was it jumping?
ooh, yeah, it was a jumping card. I only pull jumping cards when it's like a one card pull, but anyway.
Yeah.
I love doing that. All right. Ooh, this is really cool. So this card is Cottonwood. It says glitter, and it says what gifts await.
Ooh.
And for me, this card is really talking about what we were saying before, really. The message is when you start to invest your energy and your mission into something, what is the outcome? And the outcome here for me, I really feel is there's a lot of prosperity behind it. Whether you're in a space of wanting to take things in a new direction or open up something new, I do feel that it's important for you to look at the foundation, but also to look at the opportunity that awaits you. I think that if you've been questioning what's going to happen, this is your sign that there is a lot of growth and a lot of potential behind it, but it is going to involve you on a much deeper personal way. And it's actually going to call some things out of you in relation to your gifts and your own ability to, I want to say, hold space in a deeper way. What did you get? Curious.
I love this, because this is like so linked to this card that you just pulled. I just pulled the goddess Circe. I don't know if I'm saying her properly, but she is all about willpower. And she's all about like igniting that inner will to move towards the things that you want, to allow your willpower and your passion and your like anything that invokes that fire within you, let that carry you towards, you know, the place where you want to be and what you want to share and who you want to be and how you want to get there. It's just asking you to light that fire, or if you're feeling that fire, allow it to burn and allow that to carry you forward towards what you are currently like sitting, like maybe you're feeling a little bit stagnant right now and like, oh, I just want to be here. It's like, well, light the fire. You don't need to, be an angel in this space. Like, just light the fire, be yourself, say what you want to say, and share your knowledge and share your gifts as well, because they're also beautifully unique, and that is going to light a fire in itself, and that's what will carry you forward. So
Yeah, I love that. I love that you got fire and I got glitter. So this is
yeah,
definitely a major invitation to follow the spark, follow the passion, follow your desires too. And yeah, I would even say tune into that sacral chakra and see where she wants to lead you.
yeah, I'm getting sacral too.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I love doing these because it's also a little like it's a little tandem read, and it's awesome to see when the messages kind of synchronize like that. I love that.
I love it. I love it too. So beautiful. Thank you so much for this topic, beautiful soul.
Yeah,
Really
thank you.
enjoyed discussing it.
Yeah, me too. And thank you for everybody who's listening, who is with us in our space. Don't forget to go and follow the Divinely Human podcast over on Instagram. I would love some feedback too, just around how we're delivering this. If you've got any suggestions, we're so open to hearing suggestions. And of course, if you have a topic that you'd love for us to speak about, drop it into the DH's Instagram inbox. But we will see you guys next week. Thank you.
Bye.